He insulted me, so I lashed out. I regretted it for weeks. But what if I had paused? What if I had responded, instead of reacted? That single moment could have changed everything. Pause is power. There was a time in my life when I thought quick reactions meant strength. If someone disrespected me, I snapped back. If something went wrong, I shouted, panicked, tried to fix it right away. I didn't think. I just reacted. And for a while, I told myself, that's just who I am. I'm passionate. I speak my mind. But the truth? I was just out of control. And it cost me relationships, peace, even sleep. I still remember one morning. I was rushing out the door for work, already running late. My son, about 12 at the time, accidentally spilled orange juice on my shirt. And I exploded. My voice echoed through the kitchen. He froze. His eyes dropped. He didn't say a word. He just picked up his backpack, and left. Quietly. That moment. It haunts me more than the toughest days I've ever had at work. I reacted. If only I had paused. Just a breath. One deep breath might have reminded me, he's just a kid. It was an accident. The shirt could have been changed. But the words I threw at him, they couldn't be taken back. It was around that time that I picked up a book by Marcus Aurelius. A simple line hit me like a wave: if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. He was right. The juice didn't hurt me. My reaction did. That was the start of a quiet practice I began teaching myself: pause. Just pause. Before I speak. Before I judge. Before I assume the worst. Now, when something upsets me, I do nothing. Not at first. I breathe. I observe. And only then I respond. It's not always easy. Old habits whisper in your ear. But with time, I realized this: backhand index pointing right, pausing doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. That pause is where strength lives. It's where the emotional storm passes and your deeper self speaks. You begin to see things more clearly. You stop saying words you'll regret. You start living with more peace and less repair. And when you look back, you'll realize it wasn't the big achievements or the loud victories that shaped your life. It was these quiet choices. Moments where you paused and responded with grace. That's power. In the next lesson, we'll talk about something just as important: backhand index pointing right. Your first thought is a reflex. Your second thought is you. Because what comes next is who you truly are. Your first thought is a reflex. Your second thought is you. They say wisdom comes with age. But I've learned that wisdom also comes in silence, in the quiet pause between the first thought and the second. Let me tell you something that happened to me a few years ago. I was driving home after a long day at work. You know the kind: your back aches, your mind is full, and you just want to sit in peace. Suddenly, some young guy in a loud truck cut me off. No signal. No apology. Just flew right past me. And instantly my chest tightened, my hands gripped the wheel, and a voice in my head screamed, "What a jerk. Who does he think he is?" That was my first thought. Fast, emotional, full of heat. The kind of thought that wants to chase him down, honk the horn, throw a few angry words out the window. But something told me to wait. I remembered what I'd been practicing: the pause we talked about in the last lesson. So I took a deep breath. Slowed down. Let him go. And then, the second thought came. A softer one. Maybe he's rushing to the hospital. Maybe he's just a young kid who doesn't know better. Maybe it has nothing to do with me at all. And suddenly, the anger, it melted. I kept driving, calm. No drama. No regret. That's when I understood something the Stoics have been trying to teach for centuries: you are not your first thought. The first thought is a reflex, it comes from your past, your conditioning, your ego. It's automatic. But the second thought, that's the real you. That's where your character lives. Seneca once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Your first thought is often defensive, quick to judge, ready to fight. But your second thought gives you a chance to choose differently. To respond, not react. To lead with wisdom, not impulse. And you know, after 40, we begin to see how many mistakes were made in moments we didn't pause. Arguments we wish we'd never started. Words we wish we could pull back. Relationships damaged not by what happened, but by how we responded to what happened. And yet, the beautiful truth is, we can change. We can train that space between the first and second thought. It takes time. It takes honesty. But it's possible. And it's worth it. These days, when I feel myself heating up, I remind myself, wait for the second thought. It's quieter, yes. But it's wiser. And more often than not, it leads me somewhere I don't regret. That moment on the road may seem small. But it saved me from carrying someone else's storm into my home. Into my evening. Into my peace. And now that you've learned to wait for your second thought, let's go one layer deeper in the next lesson. Backhand index pointing right, control begins within. Because when you stop blaming the world, and start mastering your mind, everything changes. Control begins within. There was a time in my life when I thought control meant managing everything around me. The job. The bills. The schedule. Even other people's moods. I believed that if I could just get things in order, if everyone did what they were supposed to do, then I could finally feel at peace. But life doesn't work like that, does it? I remember a weekend a few years back. I had planned everything. Dinner with my wife. Time with the kids. Maybe even a quiet walk by the lake. But by noon, the rain ruined our plans. The kids started fighting over a game. My wife got a headache. And I lost my cool. I remember snapping at everyone. I paced around the house, grumbling like a storm cloud, frustrated that the day wasn't going how I imagined. I felt powerless. And it hit me later that night, I wasn't mad at the rain, or the kids, or my wife. I was mad because I didn't feel in control. But here's the thing. I was never supposed to control those things. That's when I stumbled on a quote from Epictetus that changed something in me: some things are up to us, and some things are not. It sounds simple. But for a man who spent most of his life trying to fix the outside world just to feel okay on the inside, those words were like a quiet revolution. You see, real control, the kind that lasts, doesn't begin with others. It begins with you. With your breath. With your thoughts. With the story you tell yourself when things don't go as planned. I started practicing this one small habit. Whenever something upset me, I asked myself, is this within my control? And most of the time, the answer was no. The weather? No. Someone else's attitude? No. Traffic? Definitely not. But my response? My tone of voice? My focus? Always yes. I can't control whether the world is calm or chaotic. But I can control whether I bring calm into that chaos. And you can too. You might be dealing with things right now: aging parents, rebellious teenagers, a career that feels stuck. Life throws a lot at us after 40. But even in the middle of all that, you still have a choice. To show up with presence. To choose patience over panic. To let go of what you cannot hold and hold tightly to what truly matters. I don't get it right every time. But I'm better than I was. And that's enough. Because I've learned that when you stop wasting energy on what's out there, and start tending to what's in here, your heart, your thoughts, your actions. That's when real peace begins. Now that you understand control starts within, let's explore something even deeper in the next lesson. Backhand index pointing right. Emotion is energy. Channel it wisely. Because how you use that inner fire can either burn you, or light your path. Emotion is energy. Channel it wisely. A few months after my father passed away, I found myself sitting alone on the porch, staring at nothing. I wasn't crying. I wasn't talking. I wasn't doing anything. I was just full. Full of grief, yes. But also something more confusing. Anger. I was angry at the doctors. Angry at time. Angry at myself for all the conversations we never had. I didn't know where to put that feeling. So I buried it. Pushed it down. And for weeks, I felt heavy. Tired. Disconnected. Until one day, I read something from Seneca that struck a chord. No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity. For he is not permitted to prove himself. It reminded me, pain isn't the enemy. Anger isn't evil. Sadness isn't weakness. They're energy. Raw, powerful energy. And like any energy, you can waste it, or you can use it. So I started writing. Every morning, I would get up early, open a journal, and pour everything I felt onto the page. The frustration. The regret. The fear. At first, it was messy. But over time, I noticed something. The more I wrote, the clearer I felt. Like I had turned that emotion into motion. Into understanding. Into healing. The Stoics never said we should feel nothing. That's a myth. What they said is that we should not be ruled by our emotions. We should guide them, like a rider guiding a powerful horse. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you use it, that matters." That line stayed with me. So now, when I feel a wave of emotion, whether it's grief, or anger, or even joy, I stop and ask, where can I direct this? Not to hurt. Not to react. But to create. To connect. To move forward with purpose. Maybe for you, it's painting. Maybe it's running, building, gardening, praying. Or maybe it's sitting with someone who needs your strength. Whatever it is. Don't waste your emotions fighting what can't be changed. Use them to change what can. You're older now. Wiser. You've felt the highs and lows of life and you're still standing. That means you carry power. And the question is, will you let that energy burn you up from the inside? Or will you use it to light your way forward? In the next lesson, we'll slow things down and explore something even more powerful than action. Backhand index pointing right. Delay is discipline. Because sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is wait. Delay is discipline. When I was younger, I thought strong people acted fast. You feel something, you say it. You want something, you take it. You don't wait. You move. You win. But the older I got, the more I saw the damage that came from moving too fast. And the peace that came from waiting just a little longer. I'll never forget the day I almost quit my job. I had been working at the same company for over 10 years. Loyal. Hardworking. Always on time. One day, I walked into a meeting and heard my name come up, not in praise, but in criticism. Someone I considered a friend said I wasn't pulling my weight. Right there. In front of everyone. My face got hot. My fists clenched under the table. My first thought, I'm done. I'll walk out right now. But something stopped me. A voice in my head, one I didn't used to listen to, whispered, not yet. Just wait. So I said nothing. I finished the meeting. I went home. And I waited. The next day, that same colleague called me and apologized. Said he'd been under pressure. Said he didn't mean it. And I knew in that moment, if I had reacted, if I had quit, I would have burned years of hard-earned trust. All because of one unfiltered moment. That was the day I learned, backhand index pointing right discipline doesn't always look like action. Sometimes, it looks like waiting. Seneca wrote, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." And it's true. Delay gives your emotions time to settle. Delay gives wisdom time to speak. Delay gives space for the truth to rise, not the version twisted by heat or pride. Now, I practice the discipline of delay. When I get a harsh email, I don't reply right away. When someone says something rude, I let silence answer for me just for a while. When I feel like giving up, or giving in, or saying something I'll regret, I tell myself, not now. Maybe later. And more often than not, later never comes. Because the emotion fades, the truth becomes clearer, and I'm grateful I waited. Delay doesn't mean weakness. It means you're in control of yourself. It means you value long-term peace over short-term relief. It means you've grown. At this age, I no longer want to be quick. I want to be steady. I want to be wise. And if you've made mistakes reacting too fast, you're not alone. We all have. But you can start today, to pause, to breathe, to wait before you act. Because sometimes, the strongest move, is no move at all. In the next lesson, we'll shift from the quiet strength of delay to something deeper, backhand index pointing right. The world doesn't owe you peace. Because when you stop expecting the world to be kind and learn to be kind anyway, that's where real power begins. The world doesn't owe you peace. There was a time I believed that if I just lived right, if I was kind, patient, honest, the world would give me peace in return. I thought, if I helped others, they'd help me. If I stayed calm, life would be calm back. But life doesn't work like that. I remember one night, a few years ago, I stopped to help a stranger whose car had broken down on the side of the road. It was raining. I was tired. But I pulled over anyway. Changed his tire. Gave him my flashlight. Even offered him a ride. And you know what he said to me after? Nothing. No thank you. No handshake. He just drove off like I was never there. I sat in my car afterward, soaked to the bone. And I felt something unexpected, bitterness. Not because I wanted praise. But because I expected the world to be fair. To meet my kindness with kindness. To reward me for doing the right thing. But here's the hard truth I've come to accept, backhand index pointing right. The world doesn't owe you peace, just because you've chosen to be peaceful. Life will still be loud. People will still be rude. Circumstances will still turn upside down, even when you've done everything right. And that's okay. Because peace was never supposed to come from the outside. It's something you build on the inside. Epictetus said, "It is not events that disturb people, it is their judgments concerning them." When someone cuts you off in traffic. When a coworker takes credit for your work. When your child talks back after you've given them everything. It's easy to think, why is this happening to me? But the better question, the Stoic question, is, how will I respond to this moment, even if it's unfair? That's where strength lies. Not in changing the world, but in changing yourself in the face of it. So now, when I feel disappointment creeping in, when I feel like life should be more kind, I remind myself, no one promised me comfort. No one guaranteed fairness. But I can still choose to be calm. I can still choose to show up with grace. That's what Stoicism has taught me. Not how to control the world, but how to stop needing to. And when you let go of that need, something beautiful happens. You become free. Free from expectations. Free from constant frustration. Free to carry peace with you, no matter where you are or what happens. In the next lesson, we'll talk about something many of us learn too late, backhand index pointing right. You don't need to win every battle. Because sometimes, the real victory is walking away. You don't need to win every battle. There was a time I believed every disagreement had to be resolved. Every insult needed a comeback. Every battle had to be fought and won. I thought walking away meant weakness, that staying silent meant surrender. But I was wrong. I remember a family dinner some years back. A cousin, loud, opinionated, started going on about politics. He said something I didn't agree with. Strongly. He said it with arrogance, like anyone who disagreed was just stupid. My heart started racing. My mind began preparing facts, arguments, counterpoints. I was ready for war at the dinner table. But then I looked around. My mother was quietly cutting her food. My daughter was trying to feed her little brother. And I realized something: even if I won this argument, I'd lose something bigger: peace. Connection. A moment with people I love. So I smiled. Took a sip of water. And said nothing. That was one of the hardest things I've done. But it was also one of the wisest. Because you don't have to attend every fight you're invited to. Not every opinion needs your correction. Not every attack needs your defense. Seneca wrote, "It is better to conquer our grief than to deceive it." I'd add, it's better to conquer our pride than to feed it. Sometimes, your silence speaks more than your words ever could. I'm not saying let people walk all over you. I'm saying, learn to choose your battles. Ask yourself, is this worth my peace? My energy? My time? Because the truth is, after 40, you start to realize what really matters. You no longer have the energy to be right all the time. You start choosing peace over pride. Silence over noise. Letting go over locking horns. And surprisingly, you don't feel weaker. You feel stronger. Because you are no longer controlled by the need to win. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." That means don't match their anger. Don't mirror their ignorance. Don't sink just to prove a point. Instead, rise. Smile. Let it pass like a storm you no longer need to stand in. You'll find over time that many battles resolve themselves. People calm down. Life moves on. And you're still standing, still peaceful, still intact. So the next time someone tries to pull you into a fight, pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, do I really need to win this, or is it wiser to walk away? And in the next lesson, we'll talk about how to prepare for those moments before they even arrive. Backhand index pointing right responses are built in practice, not in crisis. Because wisdom isn't something you turn on in a storm, it's something you build, every single day. Responses are built in practice, not in crisis. We all want to believe we'll rise to the occasion when life gets hard. That when someone pushes us, we'll stay calm. When something falls apart, we'll stay strong. When the storm comes, we'll somehow find the right words, the right mindset, the right response. But here's what I've learned, friend. You don't rise to the occasion. Backhand index pointing right, you fall to the level of your training. Let me explain. A few years ago, a man I worked with lost his wife in a car accident. Tragic, sudden. The kind of loss that breaks most people. I went to visit him a week later, expecting to find him in pieces. But when I walked into his home, he was calm. Grieving, yes, but steady. Present. He spoke with clarity. He comforted me. And I remember asking him, "How are you handling this with so much strength?" He looked at me and said quietly, "I've been training for this all my life. I just didn't know it." That moment never left me. You see, he didn't suddenly become wise overnight. He had built habits. He had read philosophy. He had journaled. He practiced patience when life was still good. He learned to breathe through frustration when it didn't really matter, so when it did matter, he was ready. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." It means you don't wait for the fire to come before learning how to handle the heat. You prepare your soul like a soldier sharpens his sword, not in battle, but in quiet hours. Now, I try to live by this. When I wake up in the morning, I write down what might go wrong that day. Traffic, delays, arguments. Not to be negative but to be ready. I ask myself, if someone cuts me off today, how will I respond? If someone criticizes me unfairly, can I stay grounded? It's like rehearsal. So when those moments actually come, and they always do, I'm not caught off guard. I've seen it in my mind. I've already practiced. And sure, I still fail sometimes. But the point is, I fail less than I used to. Because I'm not waiting until crisis hits to find out who I am. I'm building that person every day. And so can you. You don't need to be perfect. But you do need to be intentional. Plant the seeds of wisdom when the skies are clear. So when the storm rolls in, you've got deep roots. In the next lesson, we'll explore one of the most powerful metaphors in Stoic thought: backhand index pointing right. Your mind is a fortress. Because when the world falls apart, it's the walls you've built inside that will protect you. Your mind is a fortress. I used to think strength was about being tough on the outside. Broad shoulders, a deep voice, a firm handshake. But life taught me real strength lives on the inside. When I was 43, I lost my job. Not because I was lazy. Not because I did something wrong. Just a company merger. Numbers on a spreadsheet. After 17 years of loyalty gone, in one meeting. I remember driving home that day in silence. Not angry. Not panicked. Just stunned. The kind of silence where you start questioning everything. What now? Who am I, without this job? How do I tell my family? That night, I sat alone in my garage, hands folded, staring at the wall. And slowly, a strange kind of calm settled in. Because for the first time in my life, I realized, everything around me can be taken. The job. The house. Even the people I love. But what can't be taken unless I give it away? Backhand index pointing right is my mind. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That quote stayed with me. From that moment on, I started building something no one could ever lay off, or shut down, or repossess, a fortress inside my head. I stopped chasing approval. I stopped needing things to go my way to feel okay. I started guarding my thoughts the way a king guards a castle. And little by little I found peace. Not because life got easier, but because I stopped giving the world the keys to my emotions. That's what the Stoics meant when they spoke of resilience. Not coldness. Not apathy. But inner strength, the kind that says, you can shake the earth beneath my feet, but you will not touch my mind unless I let you. I still have days where doubt creeps in. Where frustration knocks at the gate. But now, I don't just open the doors. I pause. I question. I choose who gets in. And the older I get, the more sacred this practice becomes. Because let's be honest, the world is noisy. Unpredictable. But that doesn't mean you have to be. You can build your mind into a place of calm. Of clarity. Of quiet strength. A place where storms may howl outside, but inside there is peace. And now that your mind is strong and steady, let's reflect on the final lesson in this journey. Backhand index pointing right. Reaction is instinct. Response is art. Because when you learn to respond with grace, no matter what life throws at you, that's when you become truly free. Reaction is instinct. Response is art. When something shocks you, hurts you, offends you. You'll feel it right away. A jolt. A tightening in the chest. A flash of heat behind the eyes. That's your instinct, your built-in reaction. And it's human. But being human doesn't mean being impulsive. Not after all we've lived through. Not after all we've learned. Years ago, if someone criticized me, I'd bite back. Quick words. Raised voice. A sharp tone meant to defend, to strike. And in the moment, it felt right, justified. But afterwards? Always the same thing, regret. A heaviness in the stomach. A relationship fractured over a few careless words. I remember one time. My wife and I were arguing over something small. I don't even remember what it was. But I remember how she looked when I raised my voice. Not scared. Not angry. Just tired. And it broke me. Because in that moment, I wasn't protecting anything. I was just reacting. Like a fire that doesn't know what it's burning. That night, after things calmed down, I sat alone and wrote in my journal, "Today, I chose instinct. Tomorrow, I choose art." That was the day I decided, I don't want to be a man who just reacts. I want to respond. And here's the difference, backhand index pointing right reaction is fast. Response is slow. Backhand index pointing right reaction is automatic. Response is chosen. Backhand index pointing right reaction is survival. Response is creation. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions." And what could be a higher ambition than to master yourself? Now, when I feel the surge, the quick burn of emotion, I treat it like raw clay. Unformed. Shapeless. Powerful. And I ask myself, what can I build from this? A bridge, not a wall. A conversation, not a conflict. A moment of grace, not regret. Because every emotion, no matter how sharp, holds energy. And that energy can be used to destroy, or to create. You get to decide. It takes time. It takes presence. But once you learn the rhythm, the way to breathe before speaking, to pause before moving, to see clearly before judging, it starts to feel like art. Like something deeper than discipline. It becomes who you are. And let me tell you, there is nothing more powerful than a person who can sit in chaos and still choose peace. Clapperboard. And so we come full circle. From the very first lesson, pause is power, to this final truth, response is freedom. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Folded hands, thank you for walking this journey with me. If these Stoic lessons touched your heart, helped you breathe easier, or brought clarity to your life, don't keep them to yourself. Sparkles, like this video. Share it. And subscribe for more wisdom, one lesson at a time. Movie camera. And if you're ready for the next step, watch this. Backhand index pointing right, 12 rules from Marcus Aurelius that will change your life forever. In a world of noise, be the calm. In a world of chaos, be the clarity. Train your mind daily through philosophy, reflection, and restraint. Remember, you are not your emotions. You are the master of them. If this lesson spoke to you, like, share, and subscribe for more Stoic insights. Let's walk this path of reason together.